This video introduces the Panasonic camera. And this will be the first of perhaps a series of videos where we talk about the camera's functions and we make sure that you understand it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to begin with the very basics. We're going to start with a tripod. The camera must be mounted to the tripod. As you can see, the camera is mounted because of a mounting plate. Now, on one side of the tripod, you have this indicator, or this knob here. This is the clamp. And you release the clamp when you're going to remove the camera. And this is the button that you must press to actually take it off the tripod. If you don't press the button, it will not come off. So the button releases a detent on the tripod, that red thing there. And this is the plate right here, which you might be able to see. The plate is bolted onto the bottom of the tripod, and it is designed for this particular tripod. Now, as you can see, it has grooves in it that fit into this track. My apologies here. And you hear that clicking sound, it engages. Now, the reason why there's some play there is if I release the tension knob, tripod wants to fall backwards, or possibly the tripod wants to fall forwards, and somewhere in the middle it is balanced. That is where you would adjust this knob so that the tripod is secure. So notice I can't pull this off, but I can do a nice tilt and it doesn't want to go away from me that much. And you can tighten up this tension to lock it in place. So that's number one. The camera is on the tripod. Now, the camera looks intimidating, and we're going to go through all of the important features as we go along. But the first thing to understand is that to turn on the camera, you need two things. First of all, you need a battery. Now, the camera currently is recording the audio for this session, so I'm going to leave it on. Battery goes back here. It drops into place, and you must match the contacts with the receptacle. And the batteries last a good 2 hours. This is your power switch and your recording switch. Now, this white button here, you push in and pull down, and that will turn the camera on. When the camera is on, you should notice activity on the screen. That's your screen that you can watch what you're shooting. More likely, you're going to have it in this configuration where you're looking at like that. You can also use the eyepiece. The eyepiece works just as well. But we're going to leave this open now so that you can see what the camera is doing. Now, the important controls to recognize, we'll start with the lens barrel, and that's where we will end this session. At the front, you'll see a lens hood. And what this does, it prevents sun flares from the screen. The very innermost style, or outermost style, that is your focus. Now, I strongly suggest that you do your focus manually. So, if we look at the focus control, set this into the M position. M. And so that means that you decide if the camera is focused. And so, as you adjust this, let me give you an example. Now, I'm going to show you this. On the other side of the camera, this is your zoom rocker. If you push the forward button, the camera will zoom in. If you push the backward button, the camera will zoom out. That is a rocker. And so, even if I'm this side of the camera, so that's zooming in, that's zooming out. Pushing to the back is zooming out, pushing to the other side is zooming in. And so, if I find something to focus on, if I zoom in, you can see I'm focusing on that little screen on the wall. Then, if I move the focus knob, you can see I can make that come in and out of focus. And it's a lot easier to do that when you're zoomed in, of course, And then when you zoom out, it will stay in focus. Okay, so that's your zoom. Now you'll also notice that when you do your zoom, this second ring moves back and forth. Now that is your focal length ring. Now that moves automatically with the servo, unless you turn the servo off on the zoom, in which case you move it manually. And the servo, because it's a good servo, I suggest you keep it on there so that you can do it like that. Now, the other control on the lens barrel is your iris control. Now, as you can see, if you turn your iris down, it will go down. And if you have it on manual, you should be able to turn it all the way off. You can close the iris, open it up, close it, open it up. And so that is how you would do that. I would recommend that the only reason you put the focus on automatic is if you're in a position where you simply can't use the camera, you can't see that way. Like for example, if it's on some kind of a dolly system or a crane. Now if you look up here, this is one of those things Murphy loves to mess with. What you've got here is your neutral density settings. Right now they're off. If I turn this up, what it will do is it will make everything dark. And then you'll have to compensate by raising your iris. Neutral density are like sunglasses. On a sunny day, it's going to be hard to get a good shot because the camera is very sensitive. So if you turn this up a little bit, you can get it nice and dark so that you can control that with the iris. Now you're going to find that that can be a real problem if you're shooting indoors. So always check. Murphy loves to play with this switch. Somebody turned it all the way up outside and then it becomes crazy. So what you want to do is make sure that that switch is in the off position unless you need it. Now down here, you will notice a few other settings that are important. Now, the first is iris. If you're having trouble with your iris, hit that button so that it will release it from automatic. Sometimes that's the problem. If you're trying to control your iris manually, do that. Now again, if you set the switch on automatic over here, what that will do is it will control exposure, but that may not always be a good thing. Maybe you want to overexpose something. Maybe you want to underexpose something. I usually leave those at manual. Now over here, we have some important ones. The gain control has 3 settings, low, medium, and high. If you gain up by going to medium or high, that will magnify the light coming into the camera. It will also reduce the quality. You do that if for some reason you can't get lighting. Please don't do that otherwise. And please, for the sake of everyone's sanity, leave it on low when you're done with it. If you do use the gain, turn it off when you're done. Your white balance has 2 settings, A and B, and preset. That's 3 settings. A and B are set by the button on the front of the camera, which you can't see. There it is, right there. So, point it at something white, set it on A or B, hit the button. If you're going to be going back from 2 different locations, you can program A and program B separately, and there you are. Display mode, occasionally that comes up. If you hit display mode a few times, it will change your settings, so don't worry about that. These are your audio adjusters. As you turn your audio gain up and down, for example, now the sound's going to go down a little bit. I bring it back up. And there you go. Now we're going to talk about the audio adjustments in the microphones in the next video.